Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences, raw conversations, one destination for it all. E360 TV.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. I'm your host, Lauren Michaels Harris, and it is, what day is this? Wednesday. I know, see, Wednesday, the 7th of April. We're getting our way on down the road. We're getting there, aren't we? How are you? I'm so glad we're here. The sun is out. It's a beautiful day here in the Chicagoland area. How are things in your neck of the woods? I am just so thrilled today. We have a great guest. We're going to talk about some things that are going to pour into your world, but more specifically into your financial world and the world of your brand/business. And we'll get into that in just a second. But welcome aboard, everybody. So glad you're here. Season 5, 11 and a half months per year, Season 5 of Bathrobe Moments. And this is our theme for the year. Show me your soul, and I'm going to show you mine. That's a fact. That's a promise. I love the promise that wherein two or more of us come together. You know what happens. We experience it every day, Monday through Friday, right here. Something wonderful happens, and today is no exception. So in the news, I was paying attention. This morning I listened to a little NPR on my way to and from the health club, and I think it's day 9, they said, of that trial of that officer with the George Floyd thing in Minneapolis. So I'm, I don't really watch too much of the news, just headlines and NPR. Some what's that other one I like? NPR. There's another one. BBC. I like BBC. So anyway, just prayers, you guys. Let's pray for everybody, not just George Floyd's family, but this officer has family. that are hurting, and a lot of people. I just want prayers that whatever happens is that, what doesn't happen is more violence and all of that stuff. So you guys take a moment today, if you will, and pray for all of the people involved, including ourselves, because it affects all of us as well. So there we go. That is the Bell of Purpose, which is your opportunity, my opportunity, our opportunity to experience the power of we. The power of we means that this is a modern day stone soup story where all of us are pouring into each other, bringing whatever it is that God has blessed us with to the big crock pot of life, if you will. I don't care if you've just, like I say it all the time, if you've only got the pod that the peas used to be in, bring it. We can use it as a garnish on top of somebody's bowl of soup. So bring it, because every one of us has something within us to make this world a greater place. Can I get an amen? So at this time, because she is under contract, help me welcome to the show my sidekick. She's my version of Ed McMahon. Here she is. This is Lucy McGillicuddy Ricardo. Been here all 5 years. And I don't know how you do it, Lucy, but you haven't aged a day. So there's Lucy. She's here. My guest today is someone I met. I don't know for sure, but Glenn Allen Smith may have been in the audience of my first public speech outside of what became the Goldcast. I'm going to find out. Engaging Speakers. Glenn, did I meet you through Engaging Speakers? He's in the green room. I can see you, Glenn. He'll tell us when he gets in here. It's been some years. And what does Glenn do? Well, the better question is, what doesn't he do? What he doesn't do is keep his mouth shut about how he can find money in your business. And he says he can do it in 45 minutes. Now, he is the founder and the CEO of Peak Growth Partners, LLC. Say that 20 times. Peak Growth Partners helps both not-for-profit as well as for-profit business leaders identify strategic gaps in their financial, organizational, operational systems, messaging, and marketing. He's got over 200 clients from over 16 U.S. states, and he's also the author of the book, 45 Minutes Business Breakthroughs, How I Find 100K in Any Business in 45 minutes. Okay, I want to see you do it in this one, because I've turned every stone over. I can't find a quarter. That's fact. He's also a speaker, a coach, certified business development expert, and business performance advisor. He is the president of the McHenry Business Connection, which is a referral group, and he's been quoted on CBS News, ABC, NBC, and Fox. Been married 37 years to his lovely wife, Jennifer. They have 2 grown sons, a daughter, and 2 grandchildren. And he's also the founding member of his church, where he's volunteered in children's and other ministries. He also volunteers for Lifeline Global Ministries. Now, I love this. It is a prison ministry serving the incarcerated and their families. Now, that's a sector, the families of people incarcerated, that oftentimes is overlooked. And for over 10 years, he's been going to prisons around the country, volunteering at Lifeline's Returning Hearts celebrations. So his motto, or the business's motto rather, is helping you go from where you are to where you want to be. So where is it you want to be? And how serious are you about getting there? We're going to find out today. So you know what we do in traditional Bathrobe Moments style. I'm asking you now to share the broadcast out. It's free. It doesn't hurt. You will be blessed in the manner in which you bless other people. Don't forget that. And so now pour into the program, pour your hearts into what we're doing here today, and put some hearts on the screen as we welcome our guest, Glenn Allen Smith, to the stage. Here he comes. I see you, Wendy Myers. What she said, farming, ... Well, I'll see if he can make that kind of money in that order. I think she means find some money in her farming business. So, okay, Glenn, you got some people sitting back there patting their foot going,
All right.
I want to see him do it. So welcome to the show, Glenn. How are you?
I'm great. How are you today?
I'm awesome, blessed and highly favored. Happy. I'm inside out, right, upright, downright, happy all the time. And today is no exception. I'm really excited about listening to what you have to say today. A lot of us, even more so now, the onset of COVID, a lot of businesses, 35% as of a couple of weeks ago, in the Wall Street Journal said that 35% of American businesses have closed, small businesses, since the beginning of COVID. I found that number to be just crazy. And I was like, I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was that bad, which means I'm assuming if 35% have closed, there's another good chunk that are getting pretty close. So we want to talk about today what we all can do. A lot of solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, people that have got family businesses or small home-based businesses, whatever it is they're doing to feed their families. We want to make sure that they do everything they can to increase their odds of success. So that's why we have you here today. Why don't you take a few minutes here, a couple minutes, say hello to everybody, tell them where you are in the world, and give us a little backstory on Glenn Allen Smith, if you would.
Sure. And yes, we did meet at Engaging Speakers. We sat at the same table.
Okay.
And I know you forgot that because that was such a big momentous day for you.
Right.
Yeah.
It really was.
A very emotional day for you as well, telling your story to public audience like that for, I think, the first time.
It was, and it was a bunch of speakers.
Yep.
I remember when I got that gig, I was like, what in the world? You really funny, ain't you, up there? Putting me in front of a bunch of speakers for the first time I speak. But look where we are today. So it was obviously a part of God's plan. Here you are. And we've had a little bit of interaction since that day.
Yeah.
And, you're one of the people, actually, I would say I've spent more time and gotten to know you deeper than almost everybody except for Barry.
Right.
Very similar.
Yeah, I know you and Barry clicked right away.
He was my very first coach.
There you go.
And we wrote this book together. Yeah. I owe a lot to Barry Schimmel. I really do.
Yeah.
And so tell us about Glenn. How'd you get into this Peak Growth Partners and why?
Well, kind of my backstory, which is what we talked about originally, is I grew up here in Chicago. I live in the Chicagoland area, and my mom and dad were working people. My dad was a maintenance machinist at Nabisco and worked there for 43 years in that capacity. My mother worked, restaurants in catering, and then she moved into an office position. And they were hardworking people. Dad worked 6 days a week just to, help keep the family going in the right direction. And I would say my work ethic largely was responsible from watching them do what they needed to do to not only to survive, but to provide. And so mom and dad were I would say a takeaway from my dad was he always believed in this approach with rearing the kids of saying, you can't do that. And while that negative approach to motivating somebody did motivate me, it kind of stuck with me as kind of like an anchor all the time, kind of one of those things that really kind of, it bothered me internally. And I was their first child to go to college and graduate from a 4-year college, and had some other cousins that did from a big family, but one of the first. And went into college, went into public accounting, did that gig for a few years, and then went into not-for-profit accounting, worked for several not-for-profits. And my path, ironically, I was at a school here in Chicago called the Moody Bible Institute, where I was running their accounting department, and got an offer to go to totally outside of my comfort zone space to go to an organization called the Gateway Foundation here in Chicago. And this really kind of started to moving my career in a different direction. Although I stayed in the financial area there as an accountant, and then as their controller, and then their CFO, working for I would say secular not-for-profit was much different than working for the Moody Bible Institute.
Oh yeah.
And working for a substance abuse organization that treated 19,000 people a year at that time in 5 states.
Wow.
5,000 inmates in prisons in Illinois and a couple of other states. It was a total eye-opener for me, and culturally an eye-opener in a lot of different ways. And that's a secret to our story. I was being prepared for something coming down the road that I didn't know about.
Weren't we all?
Yeah. And a few years later, I was there for 4 years. And during that time, I honestly got tired of being told the company was growing rapidly. And I came in when it was like 18 months into a big growth spurt, and everything was messed up financially for them, and had to work, long, hard hours to help them get straightened out, and building a team there. I decided I'd always wanted to have my own business. And I just got one of those days where the president said to me, I don't care how many effing hours you work, I want it done, and I want it done now. And I'm sure other people have been abused by their bosses at times, but I just said, I've had enough. And one of the guys said to me that I had hired as a consultant, you're on the wrong side of the desk. And I go, well, what do you got in mind? And he goes, you should come to this side of the desk. And I said, my wife and I are accustomed to a paycheck. That paycheck thing can really hurt people in a lot of ways.
Locks them in.
And it doesn't allow their brilliance to come out.
Nope.
So he said
that paycheck, I'm sorry, but that's the thing. You're pouring everything you have into the building of the dreams of others. And you can still do that, but it's not the same as doing it through being of service to others. So yeah, I got tired of it too, putting braces on everybody's kids' teeth, sending them to Morocco for vacation while I couldn't even go across the street.
Yep.
It's just a fact.
And you're locked into that 2 weeks or whatever you can get, and stuff like that. Now,
like 8 years.
So one of the consultants, he said to me, let's go to lunch. And we went to lunch, and he talked to me about becoming a consultant. And I told him that I needed that paycheck. And he said, let me make an introduction. And he made one introduction to a customer that I worked for years, that they provided their first year 10 days of consulting that they were going to pay me for a month for a year. 10 days. That was more than I was making working full time. And so I made the leap. Now, I will admit, it hasn't always gone like this. There's been ups and downs like anything in life.
Right.
And so I started my business, and I was doing I was traveling a lot. I think it was 16 different states, doing consulting for their clients and stuff. And then finally, I decided to make a shift after I was on the road for 18 straight weeks. I decided I needed to make another shift. And that is, every time you get on an airplane, have you ever seen businesses when you've flown out of O'Hare Airport? You look out the windows and you see all these little businesses.
Yeah.
I was like, well, this is nuts flying all over the country. They're all right here.
Yeah.
And so then I shifted my business to more of a consultative coaching approach. And have been doing that. And I have customers around the country still because of the power of the internet. And so a few years ago, I developed a system that helps me to identify money in businesses, and we'll talk about that later. But my kind of the summation of who I am, a large part is, from my business, my personal experiences, my business experiences. But what jazzes me, if we can talk for a minute about the prison ministry you mentioned, is seeing lives transformed. Not only business, but seeing lives transformed personally. And got time for a quick story of a young man I met at a prison?
Sure.
So this young man, tragically, a number of years ago, murdered his best friend. This is down in a Louisiana prison. And his story just fascinates me, of the redemptive power of Christ. And his story is very simple. he got incarcerated for 25 years, no parole, no early parole.
Okay.
And he had to serve the sentence. And so when he got there, he went to a Bible study group because they had a program called Good Time. If you went to certain programs that they offered, you get a day off of your sentence. And so his name is, pardon me?
A day, just one day?
Yeah, if you went, each time you went, you got a day.
Oh, you got a day. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you go 5 days a week, you get 5 days off or something like that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So he went, and it happened to be a Bible study, and they said to him, George, everybody in the group reads. We'd like you to read this in the scripture. And he goes, no. And they said, do you know, or no, I won't, or no, I can't. And he said, I don't know how to read. And he was 23 or 24. Men in that group taught him how to read. And then he found out that he could get his GED. He could go to college in prison. They had a college there. But it was at a different prison in the state. And the warden said, if you can get 5 guys to go with you to that prison, I'll transfer you. And he said the problem is that prison at one time was called the bloodiest prison in America.
Oh,
nice. The maximum security prison at Angola, Louisiana.
Okay, sign me up. Not.
Yeah. He got 5 guys to go with him. He graduated.
Probably bodyguards.
He graduated, and he then decided he wanted to go to different prisons and be a pastor at a different prison and kind of be a missionary, if you will. Long story short, his life was transformed, and he came to Chicago on his 1-year anniversary of being released. And the reason he came to Chicago is that he calls my wife, the Malachi mom. I'm going to just turn my phone off here so it stops. So this Malachi calls her Malachi mom. He comes to Chicago and he says, I got released 1 year ago and I wanted to celebrate with you. And so we've become great friends over the years. And what's interesting is a number of these men that have been in the program, that this Returning Hearts is part of another program. The Returning Hearts is where you bring the children of inmates in for a day with their dad or their mom. And it's a big carnival type of an event. And as a matter of fact, just a couple of weeks ago, another prison in Florida said they wanted to run one in February.
So that's more than just a regular visit for the kids.
Yeah, they can walk around. They can play basketball with their dad. They can go do carnival rides. They can do bouncy houses, and they can have lunch with their dad. They can ride ponies.
Is that an incentive program, Glenn, for good behavior and that sort of thing? Or?
Well, if you don't have good behavior, you're not going to go. So
you ain't going. Ain't no rides for you. Okay. So
yeah.
So what happened?
So that's what kind of jazzes me personally, is to be involved with that. And my wife actually coordinates the Returning Hearts programs for Lifeline Global. And so I will tell you that when she first got invited down there, I said, prison ministry, that's for you. It's not for me. And, I'd give her a lecture every time before she went and said, honey, remember, these guys are there for a reason. Make sure you're always with a CO, and all that stuff. And,
corrections officer for you people who have only seen the movie Billy Jack. That's the closest connection to prison. So yeah. Corrections officer.
Then her boss kept inviting me down every year, and he said, listen, what is it going to take to get you there? And I said, I just said, and I'll tell you what, I'll come. And he goes, I'll pay for your airfare. I'll get you down there. And I said, okay. So I went down there, and I've been going almost every year since. We've had a couple of family things where I couldn't go, but and then of course with COVID, last year is canceled, and this year doesn't. Who knows what will happen this year? But
a lot of people incarcerated in this country.
Yes,
a lot of people.
As a matter of fact, our church does a celebration of hope, or does a prison pack every December, the first Sunday in December, to send a prison pack to every inmate in Illinois, and which is over 50,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Think about that. 50,000.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's an entirely separate world, and there's a lot of good that comes out of that if people would just be willing to entertain the possibility. We always hear the bad stories. Got out. Oh no, why'd they let this person out? They did this and went back. But there are a lot of people who get out and do wonderful things with their life.
Yeah. So here's kind of the funny story that goes on from that. So the warden at Angola is now the Mississippi head of DOC, the Department of Corrections.
Mm-hmm.
He has taken 5 inmates that have gotten out of Angola that were in the program that's part of Lifeline Global called Malachi Dads, and have brought them to Mississippi, and they're in a training program to be chaplains.
Nice.
So they've gone from being the incarcerated to being the chaplain.
There you go.
I mean, what a great story.
It is. It is, and it's something that a lot of people, if you can drop in the comments when we're done here today, maybe a link to the nonprofit. So if people wanted to find out more information or perhaps contribute in some way, they can do so.
I'll do that.
What I'm going to do at this point is I want you guys out there to get your questions ready, get your comments handy. And when we're going to go to break just a minute or two early, because when we come back, we want to find out exactly, do you have some money sniffing hound dog that you bring, some forensic accountant, which is probably yourself. But we want to know how you can make the claim. First of all, 45-minute business breakthroughs, and how you can find $100,000 in any business in 45 minutes. Quite a claim, and we're gonna stick it to you and find out how you do this and more. All of that when we return, you guys, in just a couple seconds, 2 minutes to be exact. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
People when they're trying to really get focused and productive to ignore the hey bros because they're low priority. Get your motivation, create your checklist, and then that's the formula, man.
Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Lauren Michaels Harris. I want to say thank you from the rooter to the tutor, to both of my sponsors for today's show, Crystal Miller of Crystal Swing and Fun by Crystal. She makes those wonderful swings for toddlers and babies, and the swings grow with your child. Check her out at swingandfunbycrystal.com. And also my business coach, Design Your Paycheck, the warrior strategist, Dr. Robert Garcia. Now, I'm going to tell you something. First of all of the commercials and things you see here on Bathrobe Moments, my agency, Electric Revival, we create all of those. But I want to tell you something about what you see in Dr. Robert Garcia's promo there. I started working with him, and I am not kidding you. In 2 weeks, he had helped me increase my income for that month by $8,000. In 2 months, he had helped me bring in nearly $40,000. That's the fact. That's the truth. All with little shifts in my mindset about scarcity mindset, and just phenomenal. Check him out if you're looking for somebody that can help you flip that thing over and find the true value in what you're doing. Now, somebody in the room here, and it ain't me, claims that they can do something similar, and that's Glenn. Glenn, so let's get down to it. Let's get down to brass tacks here. Tell us about how in the world you say you can find $100,000 in any business in just 45 minutes.
Well, it starts with our 5-step profit formula. And so every business needs to have 2 things. There's more than 2 things, but I'm going to just talk about these 2 things first.
Okay.
You got to have leads, and you got to be able to convert those leads. So what you talked about there with your coach, that he was able to help you in 2 weeks generate $8,000.
Yeah.
There's mind issues as well, that you have to work on, the scarcity and other things. But
yeah.
So we have a 5-step formula that starts with those 2 things. If you don't have leads, you're sunk. And so what is one of the things that you can work on every day in your business? And the first quarter of this year, I did what's called a 90-day challenge. And one of the primary areas of that is how much activity are you generating on a daily basis, everyday consistency, to generate leads for your business. The second thing is converting those leads. So if you were to have a business and you didn't generate leads and you just aggressively sat by the phone waiting for it to ring, I can assure you that you'll be looking to work for somebody else pretty soon. So the 5 steps are this: more leads, more conversions, more transactions, higher prices, and more profits. That's our foundation that we work from. The other thing is that small incremental moves can generate big results. And small incremental moves. So let's just say that you converted 25% of your leads. And your conversion rate, that's your conversion rate. So let's say you generate 1,000 leads and you convert 25%. What would happen if you could increase both of those by 5%? If you increase both of those by 5%, now you're going to start to see what's called the compounding effect. There's actually a great book out on this called The Compound Effect. And it's
right here.
You have this?
No, I was speaking for you.
Okay. That's this book, which kind of takes a lot of different things that I'm going to talk about focus.
Okay.
But my book here is the 45-minute business breakthrough. And that book takes those 5 strategies and takes those 5 foundations and looks at 8 different strategies that you can use in growing your business. So quick story. So I met with these 3 28-year-old guys, and they had just started a business. And can you believe it? They hired me because I have gray hair. They actually told me that. And their business was generating about $135,000 in their first 8 months of business. None of them were making any money, really, because unfortunately their profit margin was really crappy. And so we looked at a couple of areas, those 5 different areas of their business. They didn't need any leads. They needed conversions of proposals, and they were suffering on that end of it. And they went in 4 months, just on that one strategy of conversions, they went from 135,000 to 340. And 1 year later, they were $1.3 million. So we looked at the area that they were having this conversion issue in, and we systematized what was going on in their sales process. And by doing that, that one thing just jumped up their numbers big time. Unfortunately, on a $10,000 sale, they were only making $1,500, 15%. And that was their gross margin. And so we had to look at that. And so if you look at more profit, we looked at what can we bundle. Have you ever heard the term bundle? You go to McDonald's. I know you don't go to McDonald's, Lauren, because you're really a healthy guy. But you go to McDonald's, you order a number one.
Okay.
And you get for breakfast, an Egg McMuffin, a hash brown, and a coffee or whatever. Well, that's a bundle. So what we did is we brainstormed and we came up with this concept of producing a video of the product. They would create 3D models of products, and they were targeting billion-dollar corporations. So we created this video concept that we would charge $10,000 for the video of their products that they could then go and put on their website and use it as a marketing tool. Well, I got to close my window here. Apologize.
No
Landscaper came. So that had a cost to produce of $1,000, and we retailed it for $10. When we bundled it, we sold it in the bundle. Now became $17,500, so 10,000 plus 10, and we knocked something off to make it attractive. And of course, all these billion-dollar corporations just like scarfed it up, but they were making $6,500 off of that video alone. So now they went from a $17,000, they went from a $10,000 sale gross margin of $1,500 to a $17,500 sale gross margin of, let's do the math here, $8,000. That was transformational for them. And yeah, that is a great book by Darren Hardy. And hey, listen, I don't have a problem plugging his book because I've used it in my own life. So the steps with those guys, they're about a $6-7 million business, and they have generated. We actually started re-engaging a couple of weeks ago before Easter, and perhaps we'll be doing some more work together because they're venturing into a lot of different other things. And it was a great experience. Now that's just one customer. Another customer, the guy was struggling with some things, and he had no follow-up system for proposals. Very similar problem. In 4 months, he went from a $700,000 company to a $1.1 million company.
Ooh.
4 months.
Okay.
So it depends on which levers I need to pull in this specific business. If somebody says, I need more leads,
yeah.
Okay, that's okay. What can you do to generate leads? So for me, because I have customers around the country and everything's virtual, I was virtual like 8 years ago. I started moving my business virtual. And so doing Zoom meetings, well, I get Zoom fatigue like everyone else.
Sure.
That's the way I generate business, but I use LinkedIn. So I make connections on LinkedIn. I post things in LinkedIn. I try to get activity that way.
Something about that?
Pardon me?
Can I ask you a question about how you do that with LinkedIn?
Yeah.
How do you get people to take you seriously on LinkedIn? Because, I'm on LinkedIn, but I don't really use it as much as, well, I do. I'm there and I've gotten opportunities from it, but I just, they just happen to go in. I mean, that's not my playground, but I personally, I receive so much from people in LinkedIn, and they make it sound like we've talked before when they head in. Hey, Lauren, how's it been? And I'm like, they got so many different angles. So what do you do to get that conversation going because I always feel that my primary objective with conversion on social media is to get the potential client off of social media and into my contacts as quickly as possible. How do you feel about that, and how do you do it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, probably one of the top people in this whole industry on LinkedIn marketing is Josh Turner out of St. Louis. And I've used his system for a number of years. So I'm proud to tell you that I use other people's systems because they work. I mean, why should I reinvent everything? Josh Turner. And so his approach is very similar. Get them off of LinkedIn as quickly as possible. So let's just say last week, every day last week, I sent to, these were, I got to make sure I do this. These were new connections that I was trying to make. And so I targeted an area, and my wife and I have been talking about moving to Florida. So I decided to target Tampa, and I looked for businesses that had 10 or more employees, and I used some different filter tools. And I sent them a message, and I said, hey, I'd like to connect with business professionals like you. I'm planning on relocating to Florida in the very near future. I didn't give them a date because I don't know.
Right.
Would you be interested in connecting? And so in the first week, I sent out probably, I want to say it was, I think, around 150, not 250, but I sent about 150 connection requests out. That same thing, an invitation. And I got 59 people to respond. And some of them responded also with a message to me, hey, when you come to Florida, make sure we connect and we talk. And so I responded to them and said, tell me who your target market is and how can I help you?
Okay.
Take a look through my LinkedIn contacts, which I have like 13,000. I said, take a look through my LinkedIn contacts. If there's somebody you want to meet, let me know. And maybe I'll send you a referral someday.
Okay.
And this one guy, he just said to me in his third message to me, he said, hey, can we get off of LinkedIn? He invited me. Now, sometimes I invite them and say, hey, is it okay if we move off of LinkedIn to have this conversation? And this guy said, why don't we just connect and do a Zoom meeting?
A Zoom, like a discovery.
So he invited me. So he's asking, he's looked at my profile, and part of what's in my profile talks about this. It doesn't talk about the book, but I use some software that we've developed to identify the gaps in businesses. And so that's a kind of a broad stroke. I use a software tool that has, let me just say, it's got a lot of calculations in it.
Okay. So when we get something from growth, Peak Growth Partners, what does it sound like? What am I looking at on the screen from you that's going to make me say, oh, I wonder if he could help me? Let us hear. So I'm trying to get to a point where we might hear or identify something in what you do that helps us see the forest for the trees, the real from the fake, when the next time one of them comes at us. What does yours say?
Sure. So our profit acceleration software is the tool we use. The questions, there's a guy I know who's a coach, and he says the answers are in the questions. And so we have hundreds and hundreds of questions to ask business owners, and they're kind of path dependent. How you answer one might lead you to a different one. And the questions might be about do you have a unique selling proposition? What sets your business apart from your competitors? Why would somebody do business with you? And that might be in a specific area of creating a market dominating position. When it gets to the financial area, I might ask questions like, can I see your credit card statements for the last 6 months?
Hell no.
And then we'll go through them and we'll find.
Absolutely not. I got a lot of stuff I bought in there. I don't want it. I don't want you selling this to TMZ. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But I get it. But Glenn, here, let me ask you something. What about this? How important, we hear this all the time, because you sent out 150 queries, right? You reached out to 150 people and got 50, which is better than most as far as the get back average. But what is it? How important is it, rather, for us to know? The reason I think you were so successful there is because you know what your customer looks like. You know where they live, you know what they eat, how many kids they got, how many shoes are in their closet, all that stuff. How important, talk to everybody about that avatar. How important it is to know who it is that needs your product or service.
So while I work with a variety of different customers, my focus is more towards professional service industries. And so while I've worked with boys and girls that own trucks, plumbers and HVAC people and stuff like that, my sweet spot is more with the professional services, accountants, lawyers, doctors. And I will tell you, you always need to be selling, Lauren, always.
Selling?
You always, ABS, always be selling. So now, that doesn't mean you're pitchy, if you will. But
hey, how you doing? Come on in here, sit down. I got something for you. Let me tell you what I'm going to do. Now, if you get your wife over here about 5 seconds, that kind of selling?
That kind of selling. I don't want you to be doing that.
Thank you.
And as a matter of fact, there's so much noise on LinkedIn right now and on Facebook because of being virtual that you're right. I can't tell you how many things I said. Thanks. I'll keep you in mind for the future.
I don't even say that.
So I'm polite.
I'm trying to be.
So
much. It's constant. It's just a barrage of it. So I throw it all out. The bath water and the baby.
So here's what I say to people. So I'll tell you this. Stories are great selling points. So let me just tell you this funny story. So in December, pardon me? And
I better laugh.
In December.
When people say, oh, let me tell you a funny story. I'm like, okay. Okay. So, I know you can tell a good story because I've heard it.
In December, I was going in for my colonoscopy. Okay.
I'm kidding. That was not funny because I remember mine, but you go in.
So I go in and they, what's the first thing they do is they give you this gown and they say, strip down to everything but your socks. You can keep your socks on so your feet don't get cold.
Right.
And so I'm on this gurney and out comes this guy and he says, hi, I'm whatever his name is, the anesthesiologist. And he says, what is your name and your date of birth? And I tell him, Glenn Smith, 21057. And he goes, great. He goes, I've got a few minutes before we need to wheel you in. So what do you do? I said, well, I help businesses like you make more money and keep more of what they make. And he goes, well, how do you do that? I said, well, you know how most business owners struggle with, and then whatever particular that business.
Right.
I help them overcome that. What on the back end of things to help you keep money? Well, one of my clients just went from paying $150,000 in taxes to $50,000. Would you rather
ask you to refrain from cursing?
Did I say IRS?
There you go again, potty mouth.
So here's the thing. He says to me, do you have a business card? I'm butt naked on a gurney.
Hold on. I'm sure I can find one here somewhere.
That's exactly what I did, Lauren.
Oh my God. Right.
So he has, we've been talking and it took him a few months to finally reach out to me, but he reached out to me.
Wow.
And I sent him stuff periodically and he says, hey, we need to talk. I mean, this is like an emergency. And so I reached out to him. We had a couple of conversations. He's got a contract in front of him and he's got his lawyer looking at it now. So we're at now he wheels me in and he goes, hey, Glenn, tell the doc what you just told me. So it looks like on April 15th, the doc is going to start, working with me and the anesthesiologist. I did not go in there to talk about my business.
But see, and I'm glad you brought this up because in my mastermind just a couple of weeks ago, Slam the Hammer Mastermind every other week. There's one coming up this Saturday at 7 p.m. Go to the Facebook page, Slam the Hammer, a free mastermind. And yes, indeed, for those of you out there going, did Lauren just do that? Yes, I did. So, but Glenn, big point. When a person is asked, what do you do? I've been told, and we tried it at our mastermind. Nobody, I think one person was able to do it. how important is it to be able to put that out there? And somebody told me in 10 words or less.
Yeah, it's very important. You got to be able. So my normal pitch is, hey, in 45 minutes or less, I can find any business at least $100,000 that they're leaving on the table. And they typically say, how do you do that?
How do you do that?
And then I say, well, you know how most businesses, and I've got something to say there. And then they say, well, how do you do that? And I look at them, I said, well, tell you what, why don't we get our calendars out and let's just book 45 minutes and let's just take care of this.
And just let me show you. I can show you better than I can tell you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Go ahead. Is it true? Do you really go in and discover, is that just an erroneous figure? Sometimes do you get close? Well, I found 43.5, or I found 119,000. Why that number? Why 100,000?
I mean, for a larger company, I may use $1 million. For smaller companies, if somebody doesn't have any revenue, it's obviously, it's pie in the sky stuff. If they don't have any business operations at that point, and they just hung their shingle out, well, I can point them in the direction, but I have nothing to work from. So I've done it so that $135,000 business that I told you about.
Yeah.
In 5 minutes, I found $55,000 and I gave them an assignment. I came back the next week. Their number was 600 and something thousand.
Wow. So
yeah.
For the small business, people like myself and many of the ones watching today, what I think I'm hearing here is it doesn't matter where you are as far as the size and how much you're clearing. These principles will help you get on track if you're off, but help you to stay on track if you start using them. Is that right or not?
Yes, exactly. These are the foundational principles to any business. You got to have leads. You got to have conversions. You're going to have some kind of, how many transactions do you do with the customer? Is it one transaction or is it one a month?
Lead.
What's your pricing? Your pricing could be all wrong. So remember that customer.
That was my problem.
Remember that customer I told you about that they didn't have a problem with leads. They had a problem with conversions. They had a problem with pricing and profitability. I only worked on 3 areas of their business. The other area of their business outside of our profit formula that I worked on was really kind of mentoring these young guys that had never run a business before, that just graduated from college a few years earlier, and they had an idea. And I would go for walks along the Fox River sometimes with the president, and he would stop and he'd turn to me and he'd just ask me these penetrating questions that he was struggling with. Mm-hmm. And even when I met with him a couple of weeks ago, I said, hey, what's keeping you up at night? He goes, we're doing something that nobody else is doing right now.
Great question.
And I need a warehouse in Philadelphia. I need one here in Chicago, and I need one in Denver to ship product out, because we're doing this business that ties into what we do, and it's basically exploding. And he said, to top it off, I got a call at midnight during the winter, and the building that we were renting and about to buy in 2 weeks, we were going to close. We had a closing date. The roof collapsed and destroyed all of our inventory. And, now I got this other problem. So every business owner, what's keeping you up at night? It could be, cash flow. It could be sales. It could be, I don't know which way to turn. I'm not a mindset expert, Lauren.
Right.
But I've been around the block enough to know that what's going on between the ears is also very, very important.
Very.
And so, just like you said, your coach kind of helped you with some mindset scarcity issues and things.
Yeah.
Like that.
Can I share what the biggest thing was that turned the corner for me immediately?
Absolutely.
I had never even considered it, let alone heard it. Or reverse that. He said, because he was quoting, we were working on my mastermind pricing for the in-person masterminds, one here in my town and then a bigger one down in the city in Chicago. And he was like, so you're going to charge this to this and between this and that. And I'm not kidding. I wrote $300 less than the bottom figure on both of them while it was coming out of his mouth. I was hearing one figure and was writing another. And I looked and I said, oh, I wonder why I did that. And I asked him, and you know what he told me? He says, Lauren, you're like a lot of people. It is difficult for you to not charge you. We charge people. A lot of people charge people what they can afford. And that's not the value of the service. And I was like, and I'm scared to death. You know, I put a thing in with Farmers Insurance about what, honey, what was that, 2 months ago? Yeah, and just found out I got it, but I was scared. I was scared to even call and follow up because I was like, well, no news is good news. So that mindset, I know, still has an impact on what I really want to get in here before we get out of here. Leads. A lot of people are fearful of how do you generate leads, because we think cold calling back in the day, getting hung up on, and I used to call them back. Oh, did you say, hi, I'm sorry, we were just on a click. I just saw now who hung up on who. It was not for me. I didn't last long in telemarketing. Let's put it that way. So what is the best thing a person can do? Where can we go to learn how to better create or generate leads? Because if you don't have the leads, the rest of the process is null and void, or, you know.
Depends on who your customer is and where they are at. So the best way.
LinkedIn.
Yeah. So
Okay.
here's the strategy.
Okay.
So both Facebook and LinkedIn have groups. And so while all the groups say, don't pitch in my group, you don't have to pitch to get people to raise their hand. But what you have to do is you have to engage. And so what do I mean? Somebody posts a question out there. And I learned this from a friend of mine, a coach that I know that lives in London. And he hangs out in these groups. And what he does is he answers questions. But not only does he if he gets the same question, he goes back to the original post that he put in there maybe 2 years ago and tags that post to those people so that they can see all of the stream of questions that have happened. So what happens? People finally, they'll ask a question and he may say, it sounds like you're struggling. Would you like to grab a conversation? Or they may say, hey, can I have a conversation? He then invites them to his weekly mastermind for free as a guest.
Right.
And of course, his members are speaking, great praise towards him. And at the end, the individual either says, hey, can we have another conversation? And he says, well, what would you like to talk about? Well, what's it look like to become a member? Boom, he's got a sale. He does not cold call. He's never, he's right. Done with cold calling. And quite frankly, I don't like cold calling. And that's why. So remember I told you last week I started this approach with LinkedIn, I'll tell you my conversion numbers. So I've been doing this for years. So I will reach out to 600 business owners, 600. In 30 days, 300 of them will connect with me. Of those 300, 30 of them will set appointments with me, and 3 will become clients.
10%, 10%.
And there's a formula. There's a formula called the buyer's journey, and less than 1% of people are ready to buy now. So of those 300, 1%, the numbers work exactly.
Right.
And so it's been a little different with COVID because so much noise, but
yes.
So this one guy reaches out to me last week. He goes, Glenn, would you, I want to welcome you to our community here in Tampa. Would you like to come to a meeting on Friday morning, a Zoom meeting where there's going to be 100 business owners? He invited me.
Right.
To introduce me to his community.
There you go. Because you opened a conversation, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Glenn,
guess what? I went.
And I'm sure it worked out well, or it will, because I know you. Here we are at the top of the hour. Our time has just flown by. But on the screen, I want to know, is this where they can go to get the book, glennallensmith.com?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
You can get the magazine there, and I can get you the book. You can give me my email if you want to, Lauren.
Okay.
And I'll be happy to send the book out. I'll send a digital copy out.
Okay. And you have a group. Here it is on the screen. I'm going to take the liberty of transferring all these into the chat when we get out of here. So if you guys want to come back a little later, you can find that there, or just go ahead and copy it down now, or do a screenshot, whatever you need to do. And also, we don't want to miss this one, lifelineglobal.org, which is that prison ministry, which Glenn was speaking about, that has done so much good. In the Lifeline Returning Heart Celebration, where the kids come and spend time with the parents. Get in and check that out. I'm sure there's something that we can all do to help support that worthy cause. So Glenn, I just want to thank you for all of your golden nuggets today. Tell your wife, please, on behalf of myself, my husband Brian, and Bathrobe Moments, we say hello to her. And your son Brendan, tell him I said what up. And I don't know your other two kids, but I'm sure one day I'll get to meet them. I hope at least as well. So I want to let you know, if you ever want to come back, you're welcome. You have the turnstile invitation. Just let us know. And thank you again. Tons of great information. And anything you'd like to say as a final thought? We've got about 30 seconds.
Well, whatever you're doing in your business, figure out what is the one thing that you're really, really good at.
The one thing.
Figure out who your target market is.
Right.
And focus, focus, focus. Don't stay away from shiny objects.
Amen. There's one now. Over there.
Yeah.
Here we go. Okay, got it. Glenn, thank you. Tons of great information. Thank you all for taking some time out of your day to share your soul with us and allow us to share ours with you. Join me tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., right out on the front porch if you're not too busy. And we're going to do it again, God willing, where my guest tomorrow is Norman Corpy. If you remember him, he was in the original season of The Real World all those years ago. A lot of stuff happened. He's back in the news, was in People magazine just last week. So he's got a lot to talk about. Wait till you hear. You don't want to miss this one. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Glenn, thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you.
Continue being the blessing that you'd like to receive. Same thing for you guys out there. Get out there and change the world. One story, one person at a time. I'll see you guys tomorrow. This has been Bathrobe Moments. I can't wait till we do it again. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye, Glenn. Thank you so much.
Show me your soul. Baby, I'll show you mine. Show me your soul. Honey, it's way past time. How expensive do I have to be? Need I spell it out before you get it, baby? Show me your soul. And honey, I'll show you mine. I'll show you mine. Oh, I'm standing right here holding up a sign, shamelessly displaying my state of mind.